Hi everyone, welcome to my live stream video. It's day 2. So today I'm going to share something in my life. Well, there are loads of things in my life I can share, like my surrounding. I live in central London at the moment. It's beautiful. But what I really like to share is actually something I brought with me when I moved from China to UK. And apparently there's some old pictures like this. Okay, I will show you. These are actually like old pictures when you see like when you are little, and these old pictures like nearly 20 years old. So, but they're so valuable to you. And it's like every time you think of it, and it's just you know, there are lots of memories comes up. Okay, so the first picture I'd like to show you, yeah, that was probably taken, well, more than 20 years ago, definitely more than 20 years ago. I think that was on my 5th birthday. Of course, I am the one in the middle, so you will see me when I was 5. That is my mother, so who's standing up. But this one, she is my grandmother. Okay, so yeah, finally, if some of you might have heard me talking about my grandparents, but finally you can get to see her. In a bit, who's on the other picture I've shown, that's my grandfather. Okay, so something I really like to share about my grandparents is about their personality and also what they do in terms of the contribution they've made. So my grandmother, she's still alive. So basically, I think on this picture, hi, thank you, Bhavna, for the love. So on this picture, she still look young, but now she's 87, I think 87, and she is still young. Every day she was like, have to walk, like she moves a lot. I think that's why she's still very healthy at this age. So she has to walk at least 1 hour per day, and she's still busy. She's doing her writing, and she likes to plant the flowers. Perhaps in this picture, you know, there's some flowers. That was my old home, but now in my new home is like full of flowers in the balcony. That's all from my grandmother. So, well, she loves life. But what really stand out for me about her was, I remember when I was still in like primary school or middle school, every day she's already retired, but every day she's busy with something. She was setting up the foundation to help the ethnic women or the girls to get education. Because in my province, in China, there's real poverty in that province. And, you know, when it comes to like countryside, they probably have like loads of siblings, like sisters and brothers. But for the family who are very poor, they cannot afford to get everyone, all the children, to go to college to get an education. So what usually can happen was, if they can afford one person, they probably prioritize the boys to further their education, to get a degree. But then most likely the girls will be left behind. But apparently my grandmother has set up a foundation, so enable for these very talented girls who has a potential for them to get education, to further their education, so they can go to high school, they can go to college. So she actually done really good things as a result of this. I remember one of the girls, later on, she was born in a very poor family from the countryside. But later on, because of this, she became a lawyer. And she earned a really good salary, and she can support her family, and she can have a family of her own, and they can live really well. Thank you, Bhavna. Thank you for the support. And the other girl, she became a teacher. Again, she can support her family. She started her own family as well. So I think what's amazing about this, she has been like my grandmother has been one of my greatest role model of my life. So perhaps I don't need someone with a big name, but people like her really made a contribution, really stand up for the girls, for the women's rights. I think even in my province, in a very small space, it's not internationally, but she's even now still sort of do lots of speaking engagements about women, about girls' education. So that was truly amazing. Thank you very much for watching. I forgot to say. If you are watching the replay, or if you're just joined, you probably can catch up halfway through and talking about something inspiring in my life. It's definitely my grandparents. But if you're watching the replay, you can go right back from the beginning. Okay, so that's my grandmother. And the other person I like to share in this picture, again, that's taken on the same day of my birthday. That's my grandfather. Okay, so the story about my grandfather is slightly different. I think this picture when that was on my 5th birthday, but unfortunately, I think this picture was taken about 1 year before my grandfather passed away. So perhaps some of you, maybe if you are from Pony Express and has been with me for a while, you probably heard me talking about my grandfather in some of the speaking, like public speaking. But now you can get to see him on the picture. Okay, so basically at this time he had heart disease, but I probably only know this person for 6 years in my life. Of course, that was like one shocking morning when I was 6. It was like December time, and my mom told me like your grandfather was gone. But at that age, I didn't even know what did that mean, and what does that mean? He's gone, and where he's going, and is he gonna come back? But my mom told me he's never gonna come back. So at that time, I sort of know what did that mean. But of course, I only have a very limited memory of him, not as much as my grandmother. My grandmother is still alive. I see her every day. I talk to her. I see her activities, but not much about my grandfather. But something in me, I realized I probably know this person better was after his death, was through how people was talking about him. And in fact, there's a book about him, people written. I still have a copy of it. It's in Chinese, but that was actually the story about my grandfather, about the things he has done. So what really stood out, he was, of course, in this picture, he's already retired. But before his retirement, he was actually sort of have a job in the local village. That was actually on this book. It's actually the place. That was a place in my province, the town in my province. At the time, he was probably like a head of the village, something like that. But that was, I remember during, perhaps most of you know about Chinese Cultural Revolution at that time. So like Chinese government was trying to destroy all the folk culture because the government think if we're like China, if China is going to become a new country, all this folk culture like tradition need to be ditched. They need to be destroyed. We have to change our thinking, change our mind. So there's a movement. There was a movement behind, like during the Chinese Cultural Revolution. They're trying to destroy all these things, all this tradition. But apparently, in my province, especially in that particular small town, it's very rich in this kind of folk culture because there are lots of ethnic minorities in my province. Especially in that in this place, as you can see, there are still lots of not much modern architecture. They're still quite traditional, so it's very rich in traditional culture, like folk culture. So that's probably one of the places Chinese central government were trying to destroy. But at that time, my grandfather know about the value from this, the folk culture. It's eventually the Chinese traditional culture is very valuable. It's people's legacy, like people's local customs, their behavior, or even this particular ethnic minority, they have their own religion. So if these are destroyed, you are destroying people's life. So actually he has done a lot of work. It's mostly done underground because if you're doing it like very well known, then you are in trouble at that moment. So he's done a lot of work. In fact, he has translated like part of this culture into English because his major in the university was English, which was rare at that time. But then, by translating to a different language, perhaps on one side, it's not very obvious to the Chinese government. On the other side, the concept of it, when people read it, even if it's in a different language, when people read it, the culture, the concept, the essence of that culture is still alive, is still accessible. So he did that. Of course, like Cultural Revolution lasts for 10 years. After that, perhaps people realize, destroying, ditching this old tradition is not a good idea. And now, after years, until now, people more and more realize the value of this tradition. And in fact, now I think happened very recently, the culture of this place has become the cultural heritage. So as we can see, perhaps if I say, I know my grandfather better after the years, even 20 years after his death, that's because of, thank you, Bhavna, that's incredible. Took a big, that was a big risk. But as we can see, the kind of legacy he has created, that was priceless. And in particular, I really like the cover of this book. This was a picture of that small town. I think even now it's still pretty much like this, not much like modern architecture. Of course, there's a lot of tourists going. Perhaps they change a bit, but most likely it's like that. And also, this mountain is I think is what that place is famous for. That's the snow mountain in my province. So that I really like this picture, and it tells a lot about the culture, about what's happening here. So these two, again, back to these two old pictures taken when I was like 5 years old. So it's actually, this means a lot to me. And also that book, that was why I still keep them, even if now I'm in England. I think even if now I'm doing very different things, perhaps way out of what my parents expected, coming to a different country, doing the business, doing what I do, become a professional. But I think these two, my grandparents, still become, they are still a great role models of me. One taught me to speak up. One taught me about protecting the women's rights, and also really give back, because my grandmother setting up the foundation really made a contribution, really made a difference to lots of people's lives. And my grandfather, he really taught me about leaving a legacy. Really taught me, I think both of them, they really taught me about focusing on something that is bigger than myself. Oh, thank you for the love. Really focus on something bigger than myself. It's about giving back. doing something that is close to your heart, or thinking about leaving a legacy. So of course, in real life, when running a business or doing like running my life, lots of small problems get on my way. But sometimes instead of focusing on like these sort of small things, look at the bigger picture. Look back, refer back to these old pictures, and refer back to what they really taught me. So it's really focusing on something bigger than ourselves, either giving back, really make a change to people's lives, or leaving a legacy. Okay, thank you very much for listening if you stay all the way till the end. And thank you very much for the hearts and the likes. I hope you enjoy this video. If you do like it, I would be really grateful if you can share. And of course, I will still be doing the live stream video next couple of days. And yeah, so today, I hope you enjoyed it. I shall see you very soon. So have a wonderful evening, and bye now.